and welcome to The Capsule Life, a show for the most casual and dedicated fans of comics and a member of the Comic Watch family. I'm your host, Sean. Join me and discover what the world of comics and graphic novels have to offer. From one-on-one interviews with industry professionals, roundtable discussions with passionate fans, and reviews on the latest comics, TV shows, and movies. Now let's dive right on in. Hi, welcome back to the show, and I want to ask you something. Do you enjoy comics? Which, if you're coming by the show, you probably do. But do you support indie creators? Do you enjoy escape rooms? You're probably asking yourself, how do these things connect? But if you said yes to any of these things, then I know you'll love our guest on the show today, and that is Danny Quick. Ever since 2008, when he was deployed to Iraq, Danny has been writing superhero stories and learning how to craft wonderful tales through the process of making comic books. He has a beautiful wife named Teyona and 4 wonderful children who also have characters in his little comic book universe as well. He always believed that we can learn a lot through the stories we read and tell to each other, and he's glad that he's been able to share part of himself through the characters and stories he's created over the years. Welcome to the show, Danny. How are you doing today?
Man, thanks. I mean, I appreciate that, man. Thanks for having me on the show. I'm doing pretty good. I'm excited to get into it and our fellow disdain for a certain superhero that people seem to love these days. So,
I need to ask now: who is the superhero that we have disdain for? Is it Doctor Strange?
Doctor Strange, right?
Yeah.
You see, yeah. I'm not a huge fan of Doctor Strange either, man. I've seen some of your TikToks, and I feel the same way about Strange as you do. I'm like, that dude is just getting people in trouble. That's all that's all he's good for, is to get folks in trouble. So, yeah, I think we could do without the Sorcerer Supreme. But I think I prefer Wong. I prefer Wong to Doctor Strange these days.
Oh yeah. I gotta tell you, just that alone, you're my favorite guest of all time now. I have some friends I have some friends who give me a hard time. Like anytime that we're talking, they'll throw Doctor Strange in there and all that. And what's funny is I don't have like my TikTok videos. I just go over the top. I like to be dramatic because it's a lot of fun. I don't necessarily like hate the character at all. I just don't care for him, but what's funny is there's been a couple of times where people, I guess, stumble on my videos without knowing like who I am or what I've done before. They would just be like, why are you hating this character so much? You're so negative about it. I'm like, it's a joke. So I've learned
it's a joke. Like,
to put that in there somewhere.
If people, follow you long enough or they see enough of your videos, they'll eventually get the joke. But yeah, I can understand if it's their first time seeing you and they're like, oh, what? Wait, this dude hates Dr. Strange or something with that. But yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So as you mentioned, we've been following each other on TikTok, and I have to say I enjoyed all of your content I've been seeing so far, because your TikTok, what I like about the most is it's a little bit of everything, but it shows Danny Quick, right? Because it shows your journey as a comics creator, but you also ask questions about, things about, just life in general. So I know you share things about with your family. You have questions about this things that's going on in the world, that you talk to people, interact with. You respond to people's questions, whether it's directed towards you or someone asks a question on another TikTok and you want to respond to that. You do a little bit of everything with your TikTok, and it's not just, your journey with comics. So I have to say that your content is very wholesome, and it's really good. I think just it's a good glimpse of what I think social media can really be, instead of putting us in a niche, because we're both in that like comics niche. But I think your content shows that you can be very authentic and be more than just your niche and do well, because I think you have a really good size following, and your content is just always great in terms of not just the quality of it, but just the amount of things that you touch on as well too.
I appreciate that. And I think it's, for me, like TikTok is one of my favorite platforms, because it kind of allows you to be kind of compulsive creatively. I have this thing where I have so many ideas that come to my mind, and TikTok just happens to be the platform that I can do most of the stuff on. I can make a video about my kids. We did an art contest today, so I posted a video about that. Or if something happens in the world that I want to talk about, I can just get on there, and you don't have to take it too seriously, but
Mm-hmm.
you can actually, put a lot of, real, and poignant thoughts in the videos too. So I think it just has the wide range of things that you can do on there, and I'm just enjoying it, and I'll keep making stuff, and if people like it, then I appreciate the follows.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, and I'll say this is, I don't know if you're aware of this, and I think the audience is aware of this a little bit. Is that I'm a part of the Nerd Initiative, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with that or
Oh
heard of
yeah,
that. Yeah. So
absolutely.
I will say that as a member of Nerd Initiative, we've actually talked about wanting to get you on Nerd Initiative and do like a interview with you sometime because of some of the stuff that you've been doing with TikTok, but also with your studio and everything as well too. So it's definitely garnering attention from a lot of different people and everything. And that I know from the Nerd Initiative, we have talked about wanting to get you an interview and put you on the website that we have as well too. So you're definitely hitting a lot of splashes, a lot of people. Yeah.
No, I appreciate that. No, I've seen that yellow in logo. I've seen that around a couple of places. So, yeah, absolutely, man. Like I said, I just like I am kind of all over the place, and that's one of the things that I kind of feel bad about, because I could kind of stay in my niche and just do comic book stuff, but my brain doesn't allow me to do it. So,
right.
To be able to get in front of folks like you and the Nerd Initiative and others is just great. And like I said, I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, well, and I'll say don't feel bad about stepping outside of that niche because as I mentioned before, I think what I hope to strive for is that we can kind of break that niche mold and show how we're just more than what we talk about. So you sharing your family.
For sure.
I haven't really shared much about my family on TikTok a whole lot just because I'm a little bit protective. And I also make sure I ask them, before I post anything with them in it, if it's okay and all that. And that includes my wife and my son. So I think that, like I was saying before, you should not have to apologize for being who you are as a person, because I think we need to see people for the holistic selves and not just the little mold that they, kind of carved in for social media, because that's what the algorithm wants. Like anytime you step outside of that, they don't want you to do that. But I think we need to see more of that. And like I said, your content shows, more than just your journey with comics and everything. So I absolutely love that. So, we were talking right before we were recording that not only do you have, you've written your own comics and you have your own, I think, I know you call this studio, is like a graphic studio or artist studio, or what kind of studio is it?
We just call it a comic book studio. I mean,
okay.
It's more of an art studio, but we sell comics there, and
right.
Now we have the escape room, so it's kind of it's all over the place, to be honest with you.
No, that's awesome. I love, because it's unique. We don't see any of that, in other places. So I love hearing that this is something that's very unique, and it's, seems like it's a successful experiment. And we'll talk about that a little bit in the interview here a little bit. But in addition to all those things, you also on 2 podcasts. Is that right?
That's right. We have on Tuesdays we do Top 5 Live, which is kind of every week we do a top 5 list, whether it be top 5 superheroes or top 5 athletes or whatever. And then on Saturday mornings we do more of a regular Q&A with other indie comic book creators. And there's actually a third podcast that we do called the Super Shoot Podcast. But it's more centered around the superhero short stories, just in between stories that we can't put in comics, like short stories that we just have written about our characters that might not deserve a full 22-page comic or something like that, but are kind of interesting tidbits about our characters. So yeah, right. 3. I almost forgot about that third podcast. It's been a while since we put anything out on it, but we got some stuff coming up for that soon too.
That's awesome. So do you just find yourself getting bored that you just want to keep doing stuff like that? Because you're a busy person, man.
No. It's not the boredom at all. It's just, when I decided to kind of take this stuff more seriously, I've been writing a lot. I've been writing my whole life and stuff like that and creating. But once I decided to kind of take it seriously, like you said, comics is a real niche thing. So it's like you kind of have to find the way to get it into people, to get it in front of people. So, some people like podcasts, some people like the YouTube videos we do, some people like the TikTok, whatever it takes to get them to the comics, is what I'm going to do. And as long as it's something that I enjoy doing, it doesn't feel, like work as much.
Right.
So, we just enjoy creating stuff, making all these different types of things. And, as long as I can have fun doing it, I'm gonna keep doing it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, and I feel the same way about doing this podcast and some of the other things I do outside my full-time job is, it's a lot of fun doing it. So you don't see it as work because it's something that just really motivates you. So I totally get where you're coming from. I think that's great. So that's awesome. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump right into the interview. So with every guest that we have on the show, I start off with the same question, and it's, what is your comic book origin story? Was there someone or something that introduced you to comics, and what made you a fan of it?
I'm gonna get it. See, every time somebody asks me this question, I'm gonna get myself in trouble because I actually did not read comics growing up. I did not start reading comics until I was an adult. But I watched every cartoon. I watched every animated TV series. I watched, whether it was Batman and Superman or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Sailor Moon, whatever it was that was animated on TV, I would watch it. And then, when I moved to where I am now, or to Durham, North Carolina, I got my first job, and I was like, I want to try to read some of these comics. So it was actually before I got deployed to Iraq, World War Hulk, that run was coming out, and that was the first, I want to say, the first kind of series, kind of run in comics that I purchased with my own money. That I was like, oh, I got to see what's going on. Like World War Hulk, like they got the Hulk fighting Iron, like they got the Hulk fighting everybody out. I got to get to the store and see what's up with this. So that was one of my first, like, really. That was one of my first comic book runs that I bought with my own money that I actually, went into. But before that, it was all, animation. So Static Shock, Spider-Man, anything that was animated and superhero related, I was watching it. Absolutely.
Awesome. That's amazing. Well, and I'll say that you're probably not the first, you're not going to be the last whose comic book origin story is similar to that. Because I know I was fortunate enough that I had an uncle that introduced me to comics when I was a young kid, but my introduction to superheroes in general was the animated shows and the movies. I was 5 when the Michael Keaton Batman came out, and that was, my first, that was my first superhero. I mean, before that, I was doing the Superman thing because, Christopher Reeve's movie was out for a while. And so, of course, I saw that. But, in real time, Batman from Michael Keaton was my first one. And that's what got me into superheroes. And then the comic books was just kind of something that came in later. So, So you mentioned World War Hulk was your first comic that you buy into. Have you been watching the She-Hulk series? Not to get off track here, but
yeah, I have, and it's kind of it's kind of exciting because they're putting a couple of pieces in there to make you think that they might be headed in that. And I love that TikTok and YouTube has like these communities that are dedicated to looking at these Easter eggs. Yeah, because I watch and enjoy the shows, but a couple of days later, I'm gonna be looking. I might want to go back and watch it again. And I'm like, oh, I missed a bunch of stuff. Yeah. So now you see, I want to say I don't know if you saw, but they said that Sam Wilson's brother was in there, and he had a run in with the Hulk in the comics, and if they're doing, they sent them off to Sakaar to get some answers, and we know what that could be about. So I'm kind of excited about where they could go with that and how because it would have to be different from the comic book series. It would have to be different from the comic book run because it's not quite set up the same way. But
right,
I would be so happy. I would be so happy to have a World War Hulk movie or TV, anything. I'll take any of that. I think it would be so cool.
Oh yeah, and it seems like a lot of people are excited for that. And I'll be honest, as much as I love the Hulk, that's actually one run I have not read yet. So I'm definitely going to read at some point once I get caught up with my haven't read pile or anything like that. But just hearing people talk about it gets me excited about it. And hearing your story now, it's like, All right, I need to get on this and read this story at some
Yeah.
point.
It's definitely worth going back and reading, because it was just a good run in general. But
Mhm.
it especially now with the implications in the MCU of what they could be doing with it, it's definitely worth going back and checking out.
Right. Oh yeah, definitely. So yeah, so that's really exciting. So when you said that, my mind immediately went to he's probably excited about what's been dropped or what's been hinted at in She-Hulk. So good.
Absolutely.
You've been writing superhero stories for a long time. When did you realize that this was something you wanted to do professionally?
When my wife told me that either I had to start making some money or I was gonna have to quit. So, my, my
Oh my
lovely,
gosh, that's
beautiful
so
wife,
great.
my lovely, beautiful wife, Teyona, she is she's an entrepreneur. She runs her own hair salon, and
Mhm.
as long as I've known her, she's been doing hair. I'm sorry, excuse me.
That's all right.
She's been doing hair, but once I started writing these books and making these comics, it does take some money out of your pocket to be able to make these things, to pay artists and graphic design and printing and shipping and all this stuff. It does take some money. So um my wife told me straight up, she said, hey, I love that you're doing what you love and you're having fun with it, but you're gonna have to pay for this some kind of way besides taking our bill money. And I was like, all right, that makes sense. So I decided to kind of buckle down and try to take it more seriously. So the choice was either really quit or figure out a way to make some money doing it. And thankfully we've been able to kind of stay afloat. To kind
Yeah,
of stay
that's
afloat
awesome.
with the comics part. So hopefully we'll be able to keep doing it for many, many more years.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's it's practical, but that's it sounds like that got you motivated and going, and now you're being successful at it as well too. Your bio had said that you started writing when you were deployed to Iraq, which, by the way, thank you for your service. I know I graduated from high school in 2003, and I know that was a really
Me too.
oh, did you really?
Yeah, 2003.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, so I know I didn't serve the military, but I know while I was in high school, they were talking about drafts and everything like that. So I know that
Mhm.
period of time was just very scary for a lot of people at that time. And
Oh
so I
yeah.
want to ask you, when you were deployed in Iraq, it said that you were writing stories. And did you write because of that fact, or was it something that you were like how much of a connection was your deployment to Iraq was to your starting writing comics? Like was that the inspiration, or just happened to coincide at the same time?
No. I think it just happened to coincide. Because
Okay.
I actually went into the military in 2003. Like I said, graduated in 2003. But I started working. I went to school, and I kind of met up with some friends, and
Hmm.
um, while I was working this job, actually printing Pokemon cards. We were working in a Pokemon card printing factory, and we would
Nice.
always just talk about superheroes and stuff like that. And we just had this idea to for this character Aceblade, and and I ended up just getting deployed that summer.
Gotcha.
We had
Yeah.
this idea, and I was writing stories, but I got deployed, and I ended up just continuing to write. Like whenever I had downtime or between missions and stuff, I had my laptop and I would just make notes and kind of build the world out and stuff like that. So when I got back, I had almost 30 chapters or something like that of stories for
Oh
Ace Blade.
wow.
And
Yeah.
also, and then we kind of sat down, was like, man, we got to do something with all this stuff. So the friend that I was talking about, Christoph, he took me to my first comic book convention.
Oh
And
cool.
when we went there, I realized, I was like, yo, these are just regular people. Like the people who are at the tables are just, regular people who are, making their own. Some of them work for Marvel and DC, but most of them that were there were just regular people who were either artists or writers or crafters or whatever. And I was like, we could make this into something. So, from that moment on, it was like, yo, this is what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. This is what I believe. I kind of should be doing, and just learning the business from there.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, cool. Yeah, no, that's really inspiring. And especially, I didn't realize. that your idea of Aceblade has been, such a long process in terms of when you started to where you're at now. And the fact that when you came back, you had 30 chapters. That's amazing. That's really cool.
Right. Yeah.
So speaking of, so you've created the Fourth Wall universe, which includes characters like Aceblade, but also Lumberjacks, King Supreme. These are just a few of the many that you've created. For those of us that haven't heard of your universe or haven't read any of your stories, can you give us just a synopsis of what this world you created and its characters?
Yeah, for sure. I think for those three characters that you talked about, Aceblade, Lumberjacks, and King Supreme, we have this kind of vision to have something for everybody. Aceblade is kind of more the ground level, vigilante. He has no powers. He's more like your daredevils, your Punisher types, people who are dealing with, citywide issues. And then Lumberjacks, he has a responsibility and a burden of this justice, and he has to learn how to use these powers that come with his that comes with this necklace that he wears. So he's more kind of that mid-tier superhero who you might say like a Wonder Woman, or somebody who has abilities but isn't quite a cosmic level hero yet. And then King Supreme is that kind of god tier. He puts on the crown. He becomes this hulking 7-foot, this 7-foot god who can literally shape his own realities. And he has to go out into the cosmos, into the galaxies, and meet strange new creatures and stuff like that. So we kind of wanted to have some start the foundation with kind of these big three who can give you kind of something for everybody. So I think those are kind of the main things that people look for in superhero stories. You kind of like one of those three type of heroes. So, that's basically what it is. And, we just wanted to be able to kind of express our thoughts and our dreams and our fears and everything in these stories that we use to express ourselves. And we hope that we can kind of entertain people along the way. So we put them in these cool costumes, this purple ninja suit, and you got the other guy with this huge axe, and then you got the king with the crown and the cool cape. So that's kind of the goal. We want to kind of educate people and entertain them at the same time.
Yeah, awesome. Well, and going off of what you said about the real life integration with the comics and what you've been experiencing in your life, I know in your bio on your website it says that Aceblades has a lot of themes that you have experienced in terms of your real life with, and I think it's like not just not just vigilantism, but fighting against greed and things like that. Are there things or are some of these inspired by real life events that happened to you, or is this just more of a things that you have seen, or what are some of those real life events that you have mentioned in your bio that plays with your stories with Aceblade?
I think it's both, really. Like nothing too heavy, but just different moments in my life where I've been like, I kind of like had my eyes open to things. Like I took my wife to one year for Valentine's Day. We went out to Cherokee, which is a casino resort in North Carolina, right? So they got this huge casino. We like to go and gamble and in the casinos and stuff like that. And some person, I don't even remember who the person was, but when we went in, we were like, wow, this place is amazing. Like if you've ever been to a casino, they got the lights and the carpet, and it's all so nice in there. And they're like, yeah, how do you think they afford to make all of this stuff? Like some random person, caught us on the way and was like, how do you think they afford to make all this stuff? You come in here and they take your money. And I was in my mind, I'm like, you know what? That's absolutely right. People come in here, and want to kind of hit it big. They come in here and gamble there. Me and my wife, thankfully, we're usually more responsible, so we kind of have a limit to what we'll use and take in the casino. But some people go in there and gamble their whole life savings away, trying to hit it big. So that's one of the things that I consistently put in Aceblade stories is that a lot of these people aren't bad people. A lot of people kind of just get into bad situations. So Aceblade is more like Batman in that way, or the original animated series Batman, where Bruce Wayne didn't see Mr. Freeze as a bad person. He wanted to help him when he was Bruce Wayne. He wanted to help Pamela Isley when he was Bruce Wayne. He wanted to, do what he could to help in the community. But when they crossed over that line, he had to you got to put the cape and cowl on, and take him out. So that's one thing that has kind of always kind of influenced my stories when it comes to Aceblade. I see people as humans who who might have made bad choices, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're an evil person. But the evil people, the truly evil people, they're always on Aceblade's bad side.
Of course, yeah. Well, I think that's some of the things that we've been seeing a lot more in stories now, especially in comics, is the complexity of people. And just like what you said, we grew up with, it was pretty much black and white in terms of, if they're evil and why, things like that. And I think the telling of these stories about how these people are making, wrong and bad decisions, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're evil right off the bat, because of, like what you said, their situation may have pushed them in that. And so trying to get to the root of the cause, as opposed to, just punishing them for that action, so it's like what they say, medicine is like, you need to treat the cause and not the symptoms, basically. So
right.
What's funny when you said, Cherokee, North Carolina, I've actually been there multiple times growing up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because my family would take vacations to Gatlinburg, Tennessee, and I've always had an interest and a respect and appreciation for American indigenous peoples, and so we would take a trip out to Cherokee, North Carolina, because I think it was just about a 2 or 3 hour trip, and we would go around the places that they have on the reservation and everything. So when you were talking about that, I was like, I know exactly. I've never been inside the casino because I was too young for that, but all the other areas, I was like, I know that place he's talking about. That's so cool.
Yeah, we like I said, we went for I believe it was Valentine's that we went down there one year, and I'd never been. I've never even driven in the hills before, so it's in the mountains out there, and that was scary. Yeah. But we did the helicopter rides. We had a good time just hanging out. So it's definitely a good vacation spot.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. But you're absolutely right. The hills around there, they could be treacherous.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So when you were talking about writing your comics, a lot of it is inspired by your real life events that you have, but also real life people. Because in your bio, you've also said that some of these characters are based on people like your wife and kids. And I want to ask you, how does your family feel about the characters being in your comics? Like, do they love it? Do they think it's really cool, or something like, oh my gosh, I wish you hadn't done that, or how they feel about that?
Thankfully, I almost wish I hadn't put my son, DJ. His character is actually going to be Aceblade's sidekick. Mystic is a young superhero, and he's kind of growing up in Aceblade's shadow, and he's one of the first ones that finds out Aceblade's secret identity. But my son will not leave me alone. Every time I put out an Aceblade story, he's like, "Where's Mystic? Like, why is Mystic not in this book yet?" Like every time I do a podcast on the Super Shorts podcast, like he's in a couple of episodes there, but any episode that he's not in, DJ's mad at me. He's like, "I don't understand why you're not using Mystic more. Mystic is the most awesome character that you got. You should use him for everything." I'm like, DJ, just be calm, be patient. We're gonna get to more Mystic stories, but we got to get there first. I don't want to rush it, but the rest of them, they're happy about it. One of the goals of the business is to kind of be able to build something that I can leave to my children and to the next generation. If there's something that they're interested in, thankfully all of my children are into the arts. My oldest one, she's a graphic designer. My middle daughter, she's a wonderful artist. She's very meticulous with her craft. And then DJ, he's a crafter. He likes to build things. He'll build weapons and all kinds of stuff for me. So hopefully, we'll be able to build something that they can, take an interest in and kind of force their own path with.
Oh, that's so neat. That's awesome. I love hearing that. Oh, that's so cool. Well,
Thank you.
and what's funny is when you're talking about your son being excited, my co-host Kevin and his son kind of had the same situation when we started our podcast. His son would try to figure out ways on how he could come on the show. And then he talked to my son about how they should have their own show together called The Caption Kids, where they talk about us in the episode that we recorded. But
I love it, man.
I know.
Kids are so inventive, man. Kids.
Oh yeah.
The imagination, and I'm 30, 36. That was about 37, and it's like I remember having that, that enthusiasm and that passion to create and stuff like that. So I try to, whenever I can, I just, give it to the kids. If they want to make something, I try to help them develop that, because I think it's important.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. My son is the same way. He has a lot of interest, but he is a very creative person as well with when we do Legos. It's funny. He will do the box set Legos, but he also has a huge tub of just Lego pieces that he puts together and everything. And it's just like you said, it's so great just to see their imagination, creativity run wild with what they're given. And it's awesome. So I imagine that as funny as that situation has been for you, it's almost like a proud dad moment of how excited they get and how they just want to be part of that world. And the fact that you want to leave that to them. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, that's great. I love hearing that. So in addition to writing your comics, you've also have a studio, and you recently created Escape Room based on your character. So I want to ask you, first of all, did you have any previous experience with making escape rooms or anything like that?
Absolutely not. We had no experience. We had no experience. It was a lot harder than, I kind of imagined too. Because like I said, me and my wife, we are DIYers. We, do a lot of like all the stuff in our home. We put in our own floors. We build partitions in our house. We replace our, all of that good stuff. So we knew that when it came to building the room, we could do it. But the actual puzzle and the story of what happens in the room was a whole nother, like it's a whole nother level of storytelling. It's like because you want it to be immersive and you want it to be an experience that people can enjoy, and then you have to kind of time it so that people can get out within that hour, but you don't want to make it so easy that they're, what I'm saying, like it's so much that went into it to build and to create that that I didn't think about. But I already, we already have ideas for the second and third ones that we want to make, and it's very exciting. And I love kind of the immersiveness of it, and including our characters, because we get to teach people about our characters while they're in the escape room. So it kind of kills two birds with one stone.
Yeah.
So while they're in there trying to get out of this room and saving Aceblade's life, they get to experience some of the villains in our comic book universe. So on their way out from the escape room, if they enjoyed it, if you're into comics, you can grab an Aceblade comic on your way out. So I just think that it's been working so far. So yeah, man, it's just something that, like I said, I'm compulsive creatively, and sometimes, thankfully, most times it's worked out for us.
Yeah. Well, it's funny how you describe, when they're leaving the escape room, how they could pick up a comic. Because I was about to say, this sounds like almost like the Disney model, where you go on the ride and then when you walk out, here's the gift shop where you can buy stuff from, what you just experienced.
Exit through the gift shop. That's but that's exactly what it is. Like I was talking to my wife, and it's kind of the opposite, because most people who are coming to the escape room now have never heard of these characters before. Whereas,
cool.
you go to Disney because you've heard of Mickey Mouse, and your favorite, Lion King, the Marvel superheroes, and you're like, oh, I want to go on the Spider-Man ride or whatever. But here, the escape room is kind of the main attraction. And then, while you're in there, you see, oh, this is a comic book store. You write your own comics. Oh, you made these comics. These are the comic books that you made. So, we get to kind of show people a good time. And then if they enjoy themselves, we can, tell them about our stuff. And if you want to check it out, you know where to find it. So, we're trying some stuff on some, on some alternate levels, but it's going to take some time, and I'm happy to be patient with it.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. That's really cool to hear that people are coming to the escape room, never hearing about your comics that you had. And like, so have you asked them how they've been hearing about the escape rooms and what brought them to it?
Yeah, for sure. So thankfully, just like you, I've had some trial and error through the years, and I've been able to kind of learn SEO. I've learned, the Google businesses, and how to put keywords together and stuff like that. So one of the issues, and they say if you want to start a business, you solve a problem, right?
Right.
One of the problems in our area is that there's just not much entertainment around. There's just not much stuff that families can do anyway. They got the museums, they got the parks and stuff like that, but they don't really have much in our area. You have to, kind of travel 2-3 cities, either north or south, to find kind of fun stuff to do. So, right now, if you look up fun stuff to do in Burlington, our business is one of the things that comes up for people. So,
cool.
Thankfully, we're being able to solve a problem especially for families. If you got a group of 6 that you want to take out, you got a group of 4 that you want to take out, and there's no movies that you haven't seen or anything like that, you can come try an escape room. So, and hopefully throughout the rest of the year, we'll be able to bring them in slowly and knock them out one at a time.
That's cool. So now that you've done the escape room, what are some of the lessons learned that you've had that now, as you're saying, you're thinking about the second and third one that you're creating? What's something that you learned from that first attempt that you're just like, okay, we need to change this for the next time?
We need to have a plan. We need to, first of all, we need to have a solid plan going in, because I'll tell you, building this first one, we did not, we literally were just like, okay, I'm off of work this week. Let's get as much done as we can in this first week. So we bought wood and we bought lumber, and we were like, okay, we know we wanted to be casino themed, so we need to buy this and this. A lot of the stuff that we bought, we had to either repurpose or we didn't use because it didn't fit into the actual game itself. Right. So I think for these next 2 that we do, we're gonna know exactly what it is that we want to build, and kind of know the exact sizes of everything, because that was a real trouble too, squeezing everything that we had into this one room when we had kind of bigger ideas for it. So I definitely need to have a better plan going into it for these next couple of rooms, but we got some time to work on it, so it'll be planned out a little better this time.
Oh, good. And as you're saying that, I have to say, one of the things I appreciate about your TikTok account is just how honest it is as well too, because I know a lot of times when we see creators who post videos, we see the output and the results of it, but we don't always see the struggles and the time it takes to go into it. And I remember vividly one of your videos that made me laugh out loud was you stitch your own video where it was a video of you like getting ready to go in the hardware store talking about how you're going to build the escape room. Oh. And then it cuts to you like, I have no idea what I'm doing. and it just made me laugh because I'm like, that is such an honest experience. I'm glad you shared that because we don't see that at all.
Yeah. I want to say that was one where because I went in to go buy stuff for the escape room, but I have a little small SUV, a little 5-passenger car or SUV, and I had to fit this huge door with the door frame in the SUV. So now I'm driving with it literally on my neck, trying to get down the road and look in my mirrors and stuff like that. It was terrible.
I'm sure.
But those are definitely kind of, and I kind of try to teach my kids, like I said, don't take yourself too seriously, because it's really funny when you look at it, the things that we go through to to get from point A to point B. So I try to find joy in every part of it and try not to let it get me frustrated.
Oh yeah. Well, and I like I said, that was great just because one, it was comical, but two, it's just that honest of, like what we've been talking about, trial and error, and how we've
Mhm.
always, see things, especially in social media, like the results of stuff, but we never see the learning process or the hard work that goes in behind and everything like that. And I just gotta say that was probably one of the best displays of here is a moment where I learned something. and this is how ridiculous I was at that time, thinking like it's going to be a piece of cake and
Absolutely.
all the things I didn't think about.
Absolutely. It absolutely was not a piece of cake. But, thankfully, like I said, my wife is always pushing me forward. So,
Hmm.
there were times that I wanted to give up on it and be like, you know what, this is too hard for us. But, she wouldn't let me quit. So,
Hmm.
thankfully, it's always good to have a support system.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's great that not only you created the escape room, but just like what you said, you're solving a problem for something that's in your community. I think that's what goes a long way is when people are involved with their community and trying to create that experience in whatever we're doing. And I just want to commend you for that, because I think that's a really inventive and genius idea of being able to not just promote what you're doing and promote the comics you're creating, but also something that the community can enjoy as well too. Especially escape rooms I remember when escape room was a app or website that people did, and then it took on that
Right.
physical form, and just how it's blown up.
Hmm.
And so just the fact that you're trying to solve the entertainment problem that you identified, promote your comics, but trying something that you've never had experience before, and learning that in the process, like that's a big risk for anybody that's in any sort of business. I just commend you for
Yeah.
trying that. That's so great. I love that.
I appreciate it. Like I said, we 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 never shy away from a challenge. We always are into trying new things.
Hmm.
As long as we can keep it within budget, like my wife says, as long as I'm not spending our bill money on it, she usually she'll usually let me try anything. So, yeah, we're gonna keep on keeping on.
That's awesome. Well, and you were talking about how earlier, trying to create awareness with the stories and the characters that you create and everything. I know one of the things you have mentioned on your TikTok is you've gone to some conventions to promote
Mhm.
Aceblade and the world you created, and want to ask you, like, how are those things? How's your experience has been with doing that? Because I know, as me, for a convention goer, I go and love seeing the different kinds of artists and panelists and the people that are there. But I don't get to hear too much about when the artists go, what that process is like in terms of not just going to the convention, but what are some of the expectations that you have for when you go there in terms of one, I know you have to pay money to have a spot on the floor and things like that. So is it one of those things where it's like, you're going to have to pay, you're probably not going to get any money back on return on it, but
Mhm.
it's a long goal of trying to get people to come to your website or your comics, things like that. What are some of the things in your experiences when going to conventions, when you're promoting your comic, that is something that would be really interesting for people to know that they may not realize?
Yeah, I think it is kind of interesting when you're doing conventions because, and we've had debates about this on TikTok too. Me and other artists and creators like Victor Dandridge, other folks who, you kind of have to figure out what your lane is at a comic book convention. Us, we are writers and we are creators and we make our own comic books, but because we don't use mainstream characters to push them,
Hmm.
like we don't have a lot of prints or posters with Batman and Superman or things like that we can sell. We kind of have to look for kind of specific type of people, or we have to network more when we're
Hmm.
at these shows. So it might be harder for us to make that booth rent, that table fee back over the 2 or 3 days that we're at the convention. But we can also use it as an opportunity to kind of meet people who we look up to. Like I got to meet Brian Stelfreeze at the last show that I went to, and he said that he would do a cover for us, and a cover for one of our comic books. So that's
Oh,
a great
cool.
opportunity, and
Yeah.
things like that are that's kind of the perfect place to do it. You want to get in there and you want to sell your comics, you want to make your money back, but you also got to kind of take that opportunity to kind of get out there and introduce yourself to people, and people who are kind of in places to, maybe take you to the next level, or people that you can work with on things. So I think it's always kind of finding that balance between, working to sell your stuff and then working to get to the next level. And it's just a great place to do it if you're a comic book creator, I think.
Right. So for you being a indie comic creator and, business owner with this, what is that like next step or next level that you're mentioning for yourself? Because you talk about getting a cover artist to do a cover for one of the future issues and examples like that. For you, what is that next level in terms of where you want to push this out and kind of step up in that industry?
Yeah, I think if we can, our goal right now is to be consistent, right? To just put out a book, whether it's, every 2 months or every month or every week, to put out content consistently. Because once we can do that, that's the foundation is set for anything else that we want to do. We do want to get into animation. We want to get into one of the big things for next year is we're trying to do a short film for Aceblade.
Oh, cool.
A lot of things that we want to do, but we have to make sure that the foundation is set first. So once we get this consistency of putting out a project every 3 months or whatever it is, whatever the schedule is, and getting books out on time to people, because that's the most important thing. If you can build that trust with the people that buy from you, they'll keep buying books from you. If you can give them good product and give it to them on time, they'll be fans of yours for a long time. That's something that I believe. And once we do that, literally anything else we want to do, we can do. So next year, look out for maybe a short film project or an animation project. So
that
we'll
is
see.
Awesome. It's got to be exciting to be able to talk about how that might actually become a reality from something that you created. So I'm sure you're just, over the moon about that opportunity. That's so great.
Yeah, absolutely. We're looking at some fine actors already. We already have some people in mind, but the costuming is what's more tricky than I thought. You would think it would be easy to put a costume on a person and it look good on film, but it just doesn't. So got to find the right costume to put on them and to make it look impactful.
Oh yeah. Oh, and I'm sure it's going to be like the escape room where there's going to be a lot of lessons learned in that process too, right?
For sure.
Since you talked about that a little bit, it kind of dovetails into my next question for you is what is the future of Fourth Wall Universe? So you talked about the business and industry side of it, but for the universe and the story that you created, what's the future looking like for that in terms of, do you have any plans on introducing like new characters or, something bigger or anything like that? What's something that the readers can, kind of look forward to with the years to come with that story?
Absolutely. So we're hoping to do more crossovers with other independent creators. We want to I have this whole plan. Where Aceblade goes to other people's universes to find like this highly coveted weapon. Like Aceblade loves to collect these weapons. He has swords from all over the world, and he has this obsession with collecting weapons to be prepared, kind of like the Batman prep time thing. He has this obsession to be able to go and face a warrior from another dimension, and then take a trophy back home to be able to protect his city. So I think that's a project that I want to start doing in the near future, to cross over with other creators and help promote their stuff, and they help promote ours. And then also crossovers within our universe. So Aceblade and Lumberjacks, the next season of the Super Shorts podcast, we're doing a crossover with Aceblade and Lumberjacks. And then in the comics, we're looking to have our big three kind of crossover together soon too. So those are things that that are in the plans for the future. But we also have some projects that we want to pitch to other publishers also to that could that don't quite fit in our superhero universe, but are projects that we think would work, with other publishers, and maybe do some collaborations like that.
I love that idea about doing crossover with indie publishers, because I think, just like what you said, that's a great opportunity for both of you to promote your stuff. But then, just how much fun you can have with it, and not worrying about, rules or anything. You can just, create just for the enjoying of creating it. I love that idea. I think that's a really exciting opportunity. I tell you what, if I find other people who are thinking about doing something like that, I'm going to send them your way, so that way you can talk to them about doing that. Yeah. That's cool.
Please do. Absolutely.
Well, we have a question from somebody that left us, I think, on the TikTok video I created. And this might be somebody that because the way that this person phrased the question sounds like they know you pretty well. But they said, who would win in a fight between lumberjacks and Saw the lightning wielder?
Oh, lumberjacks. Okay, so I know that question came from Kyron of Taurus Comics. I already know. He's always trying to pit Saw against our characters because she's so powerful. But I think she would have a tough time with lumberjacks. Currently in the comics, he's not quite powerful enough to beat her. But if you give him about 10 or 12 issues, he might be at a level where he could take her out. So right now, I would say Saw would come out on top. But, around issue 20 or so like that, we might have to give it to lumberjack. So that's my answer for now.
Well, we'll have you back on next year. We'll see if that answer changed for you.
Right. Right.
Well, Danny, I have to say, this was such a joy talking to you about your experience and your journey with creating comics, with escape rooms, with, being an indie creator. This is fantastic. Thank you so much for coming onto the show and just sharing your experience with us. Why don't you tell our audience where we can find you and your work online?
Absolutely. Again, thank you for having me. And if the best place to find me is on our website, fourthwallpros.com. If you're looking for me on social media, it's at the Aceblade on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and anywhere else that you do social media. You'll probably find me out under that.
Awesome. Well, Danny, again, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was a blast. And for everybody that's listening, I'll make sure to have those links in the show notes as well, too. But thank you very much. I really appreciate this.
Man, this was a great time. I do appreciate it. And hopefully I'll get to talk to you again in the future.
Definitely.